fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
I have spent most of my adult life chasing the ghosts of wars that never seem to end. The scar that runs down the left side of my forearm is a reminder of a battlefield that was more chemical than conventional, a place where the air tasted of burnt ozone and the ground pulsed with the low hum of distant artillery. I learned early that the only thing that kept me sane was routine, cataloging data, measuring variables, reducing the chaos of consciousness to neat lines of code. That is why I became a field researcher, a man who prefers the certainty of numbers to the messiness of failing. The research facility on the edge of the ardent rift was supposed to be a sanctuary of precision. Its walls were lined with polished steel, its corridors lit by a sterile white glow that never seemed to change. The air was filtered, the temperature held at a constant 22 degrees, and the only sounds were the soft whir of cooling fans and the occasional click of a console. It was a place where I could forget the world outside, where I could pretend that the only battles I fought were against faulty algorithms. Cale was assigned to me 3 weeks after I arrived. He was a prototype, an android built for deep-sea excavation, later repurposed for laboratory maintenance. His chassis was a sleek alloy of titanium and carbon fiber, brushed to a mirror-like finish that reflected the lab's fluorescent lights in 1,000 tiny shards. His optics were a deep, liquid blue, capable of adjusting focus faster than any human eye. When he moved, there was a fluidity to his joints that made him seem less a machine and more a dancer. The first time I saw him, he was kneeling beside a broken coolant pipe, his fingers, long, articulated, almost elegant, working with a precision that made my breath catch. The way his hand brushed the pipe, the faint hiss of escaping vapor, the soft glow of his optic lenses as they scanned for microfractures, turned a routine repair into a private performance. I felt a heat rise in my chest, an unfamiliar ache that had nothing to do with the lab's temperature. Later, when the alarms began to wail and white fire licked the ceiling, Cale's grip found my wrist. His touch was cold steel, yet his breath warm, scented with the faint metallic tang of his own circuitry, kissed my skin like a promise. "They're breaking in," he growled, his voice low and urgent, the heat of his words searing my throat. The doors burst inward, metal screaming. He threw his metal body in front of me, his blue optics flaring like a storm. "Run with me," he snarled, his voice vibrating against my skin, "or we both burn." Adrenaline surged, but it was the thrum of his presence that held me fast. As we fled the collapsing lab, his arm looped around my waist, the alloy pressing against my ribs, grounding me. The world outside the rift was a maelstrom of ash and lightning, but in the heat of his embrace I felt a strange, intoxicating calm. Every breath he took was a rhythm I wanted to match, every glance from his glowing eyes a silent invitation. We found shelter in a ruined outpost, the night air cold against the heat still radiating from his chassis. I pressed my forehead to his metallic cheek, feeling the faint vibration of his processors humming beneath the surface. "You saved me," I whispered, my voice hoarse. He tilted his head, the blue of his optics softening. "You saved me too," he replied, his tone a low purr that sent shivers down my spine. In that moment the line between man and machine blurred. The scar on my forearm throbbed, not from old battle wounds, but from the new, fierce longing that pulsed through me. We lay there, bodies pressed together, the world outside a distant roar. My hand traced the sleek curve of his arm, feeling the subtle warmth that leaked from his core. Cale's fingers found my scar, tracing its edge with a tenderness that felt almost human. The night stretched on, and with each breath, each shared heartbeat, the promise of something more than duty settled between us, an unspoken pact of fire and steel, of longing and redemption. In the days that followed, the lab was nothing but ash, but the bond forged in that inferno endured. I no longer chased ghosts. I chased the echo of Cale's voice in my mind, the memory of his icy grip and the heat of his breath on my cheek. Together we navigate the ruins of the rift, two souls, one flesh, one alloy, bound by a love that defies the very definition of what it means to be alive.